The air in the chapel was thick, with perfume, with sorrow, with silence. Soft sobs echoed against the stained glass windows, muffled by tissues and trembling hands. Wooden pews creaked under the weight of grief. The scent of lilies, far too many lilies, clung to every corner like ghosts refusing to leave. A pale blue casket sat in the center of it all, surrounded by white flowers, framed by silver candlesticks. Inside that casket was Emma. Gone too soon. Only 34. A wife. A daughter. A schoolteacher adored by children and colleagues alike. The service had barely begun. The priest stood at the pulpit, voice soft, beginning the eulogy that Emma's parents were too broken to read. The guests, most dressed in black or navy, sat quietly, dabbing at their eyes or clutching one another's hands. Everything was proceeding with the solemn, predictable rhythm of a funeral. Except for David. Emma's husband. Instead of sitting with family, instead of crying, David was standing near the casket, taking selfies. Yes. Selfies. Click. Flash. Click. Flash. Not alone, either. A woman, younger, with dark auburn hair and impossibly smooth skin, stood beside him. Her dress was black, but too tight, too short, too expensive for mourning. Her lipstick was bold. Red. The kind that said, "Look at me," even when no one should. Click. Flash. David held his phone high. The angle was practiced, flattering. He leaned into the woman and smiled. Not the forced, brittle smile of someone trying to hold it together. No. It was something else entirely. Relaxed. Unbothered. Almost amused. The woman leaned in too, lips puckered slightly, fingers grazing David's shoulder in a way that felt far too familiar. From the third pew, Emma's older sister, Marissa, froze. She'd been watching the whole thing from behind damp eyes. At first, she thought she was imagining it. A hallucination brought on by grief. But no, they were really doing it. Photos. Poses. Whispers. Smirks. At Emma's funeral. Her hands tightened around the funeral program, crumpling the paper. She wanted to scream. She wanted to throw something. But she didn't move. Couldn't. Not yet. She wasn't the only one who noticed. A few guests, including Emma's childhood friend from college and her old headteacher, exchanged glances. One of them mouthed, "What the hell?" Another turned away entirely, face burning with shame on Emma's behalf. But no one dared say anything aloud. David didn't care. He slipped his phone into his suit pocket like nothing had happened and returned to the front row, sitting beside the mystery woman as if she belonged there. As if Emma hadn't been his wife. As if they hadn't shared 10 years, 3 cats, and a mortgage. The priest cleared his throat mid-sentence, startled by the boldness of it all. He stumbled over his words but pushed forward. Marissa's mind, however, had already drifted far from the priest's voice. All she could see was the flash of the camera and that woman's red lips. All she could hear was her own pulse hammering in her ears. After the service ended, guests slowly filtered out under a gray, weeping sky. The rain came without warning, light at first, then heavy and relentless. Umbrellas bloomed like black flowers. People whispered under them, hushed tones, sideways glances, but no one confronted David. He was already walking away, hand in hand with the woman. Marissa stood at the chapel entrance, unmoving, soaked through and shaking, not from the cold, but from the boiling rage just beneath her skin. She remembered the last time Emma had cried on her shoulder. Just a few months ago. "He's distant," Emma had whispered. "Do you think he's cheating?" Marissa had asked. Emma didn't answer. She just cried harder. David didn't go home after the funeral. He didn't stop by Emma's mother's house to offer comfort. He didn't help with the flowers or thank the guests. Instead, he checked into a boutique hotel 30 minutes outside the city, not alone. The receptionist didn't blink when he gave his name and said, "2 keys, please." The mistress, her name was Chloe, ordered champagne. They toasted in silence. Later that night, they were in bed when David's phone buzzed. It was a voicemail from Dr. Patel. "David, I need you to come in. Please don't ignore this. It's about Emma." He didn't listen to it. He turned the phone face down and went back to sleep. 3 days later. The flowers from the funeral were already wilting. Half-eaten casseroles and sympathy baskets cluttered the kitchen counters of Emma's mother's house. Everyone was still deep in grief, everyone except David. He hadn't returned a single call from Emma's family. But he did return one call. Dr. Patel had called again, this time more urgent. "David, this is about the toxicology results," the doctor said. "You need to hear this in person." That word caught his attention. Toxicology. Emma had died suddenly in her sleep. No prior illness, no warning signs. The initial cause listed was a cardiac event. Nothing suspicious. Nothing alarming. So why was the doctor talking about toxicology? David agreed to come in. At the clinic, Dr. Patel met him in a small private room, face tight with tension. "I'm just going to say this plainly," the doctor began. Emma's lab work came back, unusual. David frowned, arms crossed. "Unusual how?" "We found high levels of digitalis in her bloodstream. It's a plant-derived drug. In small doses, it's used to treat heart conditions. But in the amount she had," the doctor hesitated. "It would stop the heart. Quietly. Painlessly. But fatally." David said nothing. Dr. Patel leaned forward. "We also found traces of scopolamine, a powerful sedative. It's not something she was prescribed." David's eyes narrowed. "So what are you saying? That she was murdered?" "I'm saying," the doctor said slowly, "this wasn't natural. Someone either gave her these substances or she took them knowingly. But based on the levels, and her medical records," he paused. "She didn't do this to herself." David stared at the floor. "And here's the strange part," the doctor continued, voice lower now. "There's something else. I went back through her test results from 2 months ago, just before her death. She came in complaining of fatigue, nausea, lightheadedness. We thought it was anemia or stress." He slid a file across the desk. "But those were early signs of poisoning." David didn't reach for the file. He didn't ask how or why. He just whispered, almost to himself, "You said it was about my wife. But she's gone." Dr. Patel looked at him then, long and hard. "I don't think she is." David didn't go home after the clinic. He didn't go back to the hotel either. He drove. Nowhere in particular. Just drove. Through the city's outer roads. Past the stretch of river that Emma used to walk along on Saturday mornings. Past the school where she taught 2nd grade. Past the bookstore where they'd had their first real fight, something about a book she loved and he hated, something stupid and petty, but it had lasted for days. He didn't want to go back to the house. Too many memories. Too many questions. Murder. The word still felt absurd. Emma was kind. Quiet. Predictable, even. The sort of person who never missed a dentist appointment or let her car run below half a tank. Who would want to hurt someone like her? But someone had. And now Dr. Patel was looking at him like he already knew something. David gripped the steering wheel tighter, fingers stiff and pale. He hadn't told Chloe anything about the call. She thought he'd gone out for cigarettes. She didn't ask questions. That was one of the things he liked about her. But now he was starting to wonder how much she actually knew. The next morning, David returned to the house. Emma's house, technically. Her name was still on the deed. Her name was still everywhere, actually. On the mail piling up inside the door. On the list stuck to the fridge. Pick up dry cleaning. Feed Tofu, don't forget his meds. Marissa's birthday next week. Tofu, their gray tabby cat, meowed as David entered, a hoarse, impatient sound. He rubbed against David's leg, then trotted toward the kitchen like he expected something. David stood there for a moment, taking in the silence. Everything was exactly as Emma had left it. Her scarf was still on the hook. Her shoes lined up neatly by the door. A mug, half full of cold chamomile tea, sat on the coffee table, gathering dust. David walked into the bedroom slowly, almost reverently. Emma's side of the bed was untouched. He opened her nightstand drawer. Inside, a bottle of hand lotion, a rosary, an old paperback, and a small black notebook. He paused. Emma never kept a journal, at least not that he knew of. He picked it up, flipping through the first few pages. Nothing. Just lists. Groceries, errands, meal plans. Then, on page 6, something different. A single line. He's hiding something. I know it. David froze. He turned the page. The phone calls stopped after midnight. Why is he deleting them? He smelled like perfume again. Not mine. I asked, he lied. His stomach turned. This wasn't a journal. It was a record. A growing list of suspicions. Fears. Little things Emma had noticed but never said aloud. She'd been watching him. Writing it all down. Quietly, secretly. Like she knew something was coming. David flipped to the final entry. If anything happens to me, tell Marissa to check the yellow box in the attic. She'll know which one. His pulse thundered in his ears. He stared at the words like they might vanish. Like they weren't real. He didn't even realize he was holding his breath until Tofu meowed again, snapping him out of it. 10 minutes later, he was in the attic. The space was cramped, dusty, full of old boxes labeled in Emma's neat handwriting. Christmas decor. College stuff. Baby clothes, hopeful someday, love. His hand trembled as he searched. Then he saw it, a yellow box, worn and taped at the corners. No label. He opened it. Inside, more notebooks. A USB drive. A prescription bottle with no name. A printed photo, of him and Chloe, laughing in a restaurant he didn't remember being seen in. Emma knew. She hadn't just suspected the affair. She'd documented it. Tracked it. Even gathered evidence. And then, she died. David sank to the floor, heart pounding. What the hell was happening? That night, David dreamt of Emma. Not as she was at the end, pale, still, dressed in funeral clothes. No. In the dream, she was sitting at the kitchen table, drinking coffee, humming that stupid song she always loved. When he walked in, she looked up and smiled, but it wasn't warm. It was cold. Her eyes were empty. You did this, she whispered. David woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. The next day, Marissa showed up. Unannounced. Angry. She pushed past him at the door before he could even speak. Don't bother pretending, she snapped. I know about the woman. David sighed. Marissa, this isn't the time. No, she interrupted. The time was before you brought your mistress to my sister's funeral. He said nothing. She glared at him, eyes red but fierce. I found Emma's old laptop. She left it at Mom's place. It had a folder, screenshots, voicemails, notes. David's face went pale. She was scared, David, Marissa said. She told me something was wrong a month before she died. And now Dr. Patel is saying she was poisoned? David's voice cracked. You think I did it? Marissa didn't answer right away. I don't know what to think anymore, she said finally. But I know my sister. And I know she wouldn't just die in her sleep for no reason. She paused. She wanted me to find something. Something in the attic. A yellow box? David hesitated. Then stepped aside. They went up together. Marissa opened the box like it might explode. When she saw what was inside, she pressed a hand to her mouth. Oh my God. She picked up one of the notebooks and flipped through pages of Emma's handwriting. Why didn't she tell me? Marissa whispered. Why didn't she come to me? She probably thought she was being paranoid, David murmured. No, Marissa said. She thought she was being watched. She held up the USB drive. You know what this is? David shook his head. Marissa narrowed her eyes. I'm going to find out. Later that night, David sat alone in the living room, the yellow box beside him. He didn't drink. He didn't move. Just stared at the last page of Emma's notebook. If anything happens to me, tell Marissa to check the yellow box in the attic. She'll know which one. David thought of Emma again. Of the last time they kissed. Of the day she said, if you ever lie to me, I'll know. She had. She did. And now she was gone. But not silent. She'd left breadcrumbs. Secrets. Warnings. And the feeling David couldn't shake, a deep, gnawing one, was that she had left something else behind too. Something worse. Something still coming. The USB was scratched and scuffed, a cheap plastic one, black with a cracked cap and a faint silver stripe. The kind you'd pick up from a pharmacy counter or get free at a school seminar. It looked meaningless. Harmless. But when Marissa plugged it into her laptop that night, her hands shook. She was alone in her apartment, the lights low. Outside, rain tapped softly against the windows, and the digital clock on her stove blinked 2:47 a.m., a time no one wanted to be awake. The files loaded slowly. 23 folders. Each labeled by date, spanning almost 8 months. The most recent folder was named Final, If Anything Happens to Me. Marissa stared at that title for a long time before she clicked it. Inside were 4 items. A .doc file titled David, Everything I Know. An audio file named recording_emaphone.m4. A photo. Grainy, zoomed in, of Chloe leaving what looked like a pharmacy. A scanned receipt with a prescription circled in red ink. Marissa's stomach tightened. She opened the document first. David, Everything I Know. He's been distant for a while now. I tried to pretend it was stress, work, money, the usual excuses. But it's not just that. It's her. The woman. Chloe. She's not just some fling. She's strategic. Calculated. I've followed her. Twice. She's smart. Wears wigs sometimes. Uses cash. Doesn't stay in one place too long. David thinks I don't notice, but I do. She's been in the house. I can tell. My books are out of order. My coffee spoon is in the wrong drawer. I don't keep sugar, but somehow the sugar jar was full last week. I went to Dr. Patel 2 months ago. I told him I felt weird. Dizzy. Fuzzy. Like I was drugged. He thought it was stress, maybe anemia. He ran blood work, but nothing unusual came back. Then I checked the cabinet. My sleeping pills had been replaced. Same label. Same dosage. But the texture was different. I crushed one. It fizzed. Scopolamine, I think. I googled symptoms. I confronted David. He smiled. Hugged me. Said I was just tired. I didn't tell anyone because I thought maybe I really was losing it. Maybe I was just being dramatic. But now my heart races at night. My chest hurts. Sometimes I wake up gasping like I forgot how to breathe. I've started hiding food in a locked box in the guest room. I don't eat or drink anything unless I made it myself. If this is still paranoia, I'll burn this. But if I die, please show this to Marissa. She'll believe me. Marissa read it twice, then again. She didn't realize she was crying until her tears blurred the screen. Emma. She opened the second file, the audio. Emma's voice came through the speakers, soft, whispering. I don't know what to do anymore. It's 3 a.m. He just came in, smelled like cologne. I heard him on the phone, talking about money. I think he said something about the will. I checked mine. It's been changed. I didn't do that. I never would. He's planning something. There was a long pause. If anyone finds this, please know I didn't go quietly. Click. Silence. Marissa sat there, stunned. Her hands clenched into fists. She should have known something was wrong. She had known, but she'd brushed it off. Emma always did worry too much. She always overthought. That's what everyone said. That's what David had said. And now. Marissa stared at the photo. It was taken from inside a car, through a windshield speckled with raindrops. Chloe was wearing a hoodie and sunglasses, but it was clearly her. She was stepping out of a drugstore. The receipt showed a purchase of digitalis, the same substance found in Emma's blood. But it wasn't prescribed. The name on the paper had been smudged, possibly wet from rain, but the pharmacist's signature was still legible. Marissa took a photo of everything with her phone. Then she picked up her keys. She showed up at David's house at 5:12 a.m. She didn't knock. She banged on the door. David opened it shirtless, groggy, eyes bloodshot. What the hell are you doing here? He muttered. Marissa shoved past him, threw her purse on the couch, and snapped, I know. Everything. David rubbed his temples. Not this again. She spun on him. Emma was poisoned, David. That's a fact. And your girlfriend, Chloe, is in a photo buying one of the poisons used. I have the receipt. I have Emma's voice. I have her notes. He stared at her, dead silent. She stepped closer. And don't bother lying. Because you're not that smart. Emma didn't just suspect you, she proved it. David sank onto the couch, eyes wide. She set you up, Marissa said. Not for revenge. Not for drama. But for justice. She knew she wouldn't make it. So she made damn sure you wouldn't get away with it. He looked at her, and then, strangely, he laughed. Softly. Bitterly. You think I killed her? Marissa blinked. I didn't, David said. But maybe I should've. Flashback, 4 months earlier. David stood in the kitchen, pacing. His phone buzzed. It was Chloe. I got it, she texted. Did anyone see you? No. You worry too much. What about the label? Fake prescription, just like you said. He deleted the texts. Emma was upstairs, asleep. Or so he thought. She'd heard everything. That night, She copied the conversation word for word into her notebook, right before she quietly turned off the Wi-Fi camera David had installed in the bedroom for safety. Back in the present, David leaned forward. "Emma was right," he said, voice low. "I was hiding something. But it wasn't murder." He pointed toward the wall safe hidden behind a fake painting. Marissa hesitated. Then opened it. Inside were dozens of folders, bank statements, wire transfers, offshore accounts. She flipped through them, stunned. "What is this?" "She was laundering money," David said quietly. "Thousands. Through the school. Through fake charities. Donations. She was good at it." Marissa looked up. "That's a lie." "She was desperate," David said. "We were broke. The house was behind on payments. I confronted her about it. She begged me to cover it up. Said she'd fix it. But the school was already getting suspicious." He stood now. "I told her we needed to sell the house, leave the country. She refused. So you killed her?" Marissa snapped. David shook his head. "No. But someone did." Marissa stared at him. "Then who?" Outside, a car idled quietly at the curb. Inside, Chloe sat behind the wheel, watching the house. Her phone buzzed. A text popped up from an unknown number. "They're close. You need to finish this before she finds the rest." She stared at the screen for a long moment, then slowly pulled a syringe from her purse. The kitchen was silent. David and Marissa stared at each other across the counter, a mess of bank folders and prescription receipts scattered between them. The air was thick with old secrets. And new ones that hadn't yet settled into place. "She wasn't laundering money," Marissa said again, her voice colder this time. "Emma wasn't that person." David shook his head. "You didn't know her like I did." Marissa's eyes flared. "She was my sister. She was my wife." That word hung between them like something foul. Wife. After everything. After Chloe. After the betrayal. After the selfies at the funeral. David had no right to say it. And Marissa knew it. But before she could lash out, a low buzzing interrupted them. David's phone. Unknown number. He stared at it, then slowly picked up. "Hello?" There was silence at first. Then a soft, modulated voice came through, male, slow, deliberate. "You should stop digging. Or you'll join her." Click. David looked up. His face had gone pale. "What was that?" Marissa asked. He didn't answer. Just stared at the dark screen in his hand. Outside, Chloe watched from her car, engine off, window cracked just enough to hear the crickets. She'd seen Marissa arrive hours ago. She'd expected her to storm out by now. Scream. Throw something. Maybe call the police. But no. They were still inside. Talking. Plotting. She opened her glove box and pulled out the syringe. It wasn't digitalis this time. It was something quieter. Cleaner. Almost untraceable. Something she hadn't used in years, not since before she changed her name. She stared at the plunger. Her finger hovered. Then she sighed, capped it, and slipped it back inside the lining of her coat. Not yet. Back in the house, David poured himself a glass of water, his hands shaking so badly the glass clinked against the sink. Marissa watched him. "Who was that?" she asked again. "No one." She crossed her arms. "Don't lie." David looked up, and for the first time in a long time, he didn't look smug. Or guilty. Or arrogant. He looked scared. "Someone knows what Emma found," he said softly. And they want us to stop. Emma wasn't laundering money. She was, David insisted. Or at least she was helping someone who was. Marissa's brow furrowed. She left me a second USB. David blinked. What? Marissa nodded slowly. She mailed it. To my old address. I didn't get it until this morning. It was in a plain envelope, no return label. Just a note that said, "Don't trust anyone." Not even David. David clenched his jaw. Marissa reached into her purse and pulled it out, silver, slim, newer than the first. She plugged it into her laptop. This time, there was only one file. Redemption_final.mov. A video. They both leaned in as the screen went black, then slowly flickered to life. The video begins. Emma sits at the edge of their bed, wearing a blue sweater and no makeup. She looks tired. Older. Her voice is soft, barely above a whisper. If you're watching this, I'm probably gone. Maybe you think I overdosed. Maybe you think it was an accident. But it wasn't. You need to understand, I was getting close. Too close. I found something. Something I wasn't supposed to. She pauses. Looks away. David. I never wanted to believe it. That you could hurt me. That you could lie like this. But Chloe isn't who she says she is. She's not just another affair. She's something else. I found records. ID changes. Birth certificates. She's been someone else twice. And she's been around dead women before. She holds up a file, slightly blurred, with names and photos. Look at this woman, Rebecca Lanes. Died in 2013. Chloe was her roommate. Look at the next, a woman named Sarita Khan. Died in a fire. Chloe was seen 2 blocks away. She takes a breath. It's her. She's the one behind it. And David. I think she's using you. The video flickers. Cuts. Then resumes. Emma's face is more urgent now. I've already sent this video to Marissa. If I don't survive, she'll come looking. Don't trust anyone. Not David. Not Chloe. Not even the police. There's more. I buried it in the garden, beneath the rosemary bush. The metal box. You'll know it by the ribbon. Cut. End. The room was silent again. David sat back, stunned. She buried something. Marissa stood up, already moving toward the door. I'm digging it up. 20 minutes later, under the moonlight, Marissa crouched beside the rosemary bush. It was overgrown, thick and wild with little purple flowers. The scent was sharp in the night air. David hovered behind her, holding a flashlight. She dug quickly, hands trembling. The metal box was about 2 feet deep, small, rusted, wrapped in a red ribbon. She pulled it out and sat back on her heels, panting. David knelt beside her. Marissa opened the lid. Inside, more papers. A microcassette. A small envelope marked, police. And a single Polaroid photo. David froze. The photo showed Chloe, younger, long black hair, standing over a woman in a hospital bed. The woman looked unconscious. Or worse. She's done this before, Marissa whispered. David nodded slowly. I think we've both been played. That night, neither of them slept. They listened to the microcassette. Emma had recorded a conversation between Chloe and someone named Anton. He had a heavy Eastern European accent. You take care of the wife. I take care of the money. Once it's all clean, we split. And David? Chloe asked. He's dumb enough to take the fall. In the morning, David called Dr. Patel. Did Emma ever talk to you about Chloe? Dr. Patel hesitated. Why are you asking? Because I think Emma's death wasn't about me. She came to me 3 times, Patel said. Begged me to run a toxicology screen every visit. She said she didn't trust her own food. David's throat tightened. She told me not to call the police. She said the police were involved. What? Dr. Patel lowered his voice. She gave me a name. Detective Lehrman. Said he took hush money from a woman who looked like Chloe. Said he buried a domestic complaint from 2014 involving someone named Sarah Klein, one of Chloe's old identities. David's heart pounded. Do you have a copy? I do now, Patel said. I looked into it last night. That name doesn't exist in any official file. But I found a digital trace. Someone tried to erase her past. At 9:04 a.m., Chloe knocked on David's door. She was smiling. Hair curled. Fresh lipstick. A white sundress that Emma once wore, a cruel detail. David answered, holding the door only half open. She leaned in. You left your car at the pharmacy, she said sweetly. Thought I'd return the favor. He didn't smile. I know who you are. She blinked. The smile didn't fade. But it froze. Then, do you? Marissa stepped into view. Chloe's smile faltered. David said, Emma buried the truth. And now we've dug it up. Chloe looked at them both. Then, calmly, she said. Then I guess it's time I dig something up too. And without another word, she turned and walked away. The last time Marissa saw Emma alive, it was raining. Not hard, just enough for everything to glisten. Emma had stood on the porch with a mug in her hands, her sweater sleeves pulled over her palms like she always did when she was nervous. She smiled that day, but her eyes were miles away. If anything ever happens to me, she'd said, don't believe it was an accident. Marissa had laughed back then. Why would something happen to you? But Emma hadn't answered. Now, almost 4 months later, those words echoed in her mind as she and David sat across from Detective Arlo Vickers, a man with tired eyes and coffee-stained teeth. They had brought everything, the USBs, the photo of Chloe in the hospital room, the microcassette, the second box with the sealed envelope marked, Police. Vickers read through it all slowly, methodically. Then he looked up. I'm going to ask you both something, he said. And I need the truth. They nodded. Did either of you know Emma was investigating Chloe before her death? David hesitated. Not fully. I knew she was suspicious, but not this deep. Marissa answered more firmly. Emma trusted me. She warned me. She left me the video. And she mailed that second USB, she knew she was being watched. Vickers leaned back. Well, you're right about one thing, someone didn't want this going public. That microcassette you gave me? It references Anton Petrov. He's been flagged by Interpol 6 times in the past decade. Laundering. Bribery. 2 alleged murders. No convictions. David paled. He worked with Chloe? We believe so, Vickers replied. Under another name. He opened a file on his desk and turned it toward them. Chloe's face stared back, 3 different versions. Blonde. Brunette. Short hair. 3 aliases. Sarah Klein, domestic violence case, disappeared after fire incident. Lucia Freeman, immigration fraud, witness in a missing persons case. Angela Ray, questioned in connection to a woman who fell from a balcony in Toronto. No charges. Marissa's voice was a whisper. Why isn't she in prison? Vickers exhaled. Because someone's protecting her. Later that evening, back at Marissa's apartment, they combed through everything again. Emma's notes, now stained with dirt from where they'd been buried. The receipts. The video files. Marissa opened the envelope marked "Police" again. Inside was a small, folded paper that hadn't been there before. They must have missed it earlier. In Emma's handwriting. "Ask Vickers about Project Halcyon." Marissa read it out loud. David frowned. "What's that?" "I don't know." But Emma clearly did. They called Vickers. When he picked up, his voice was tense. "Don't say that name over the phone," he said immediately. "Not again." Marissa froze. "Why? What is it?" Silence. Then. "Meet me tomorrow. Noon. But not at the station. Come to the bridge at Perry's Mill. And don't tell anyone." Click. The next morning, Perry's Mill Bridge was quiet. The kind of place you drive past and forget even existed. Marissa and David arrived 10 minutes early. A light fog clung to the trees, and the river below murmured like it was whispering secrets. At exactly noon, a black sedan pulled up. Vickers stepped out, holding a worn folder. "I'm trusting you with this because Emma trusted me," he said. "But if this gets out, I'll be on a plane by nightfall." He handed them the folder. Inside, classified records, partially redacted. It began with a logo. U.S. Justice Liaison Group, Internal Intelligence Ops. Below it, Project Halcyon. Marissa skimmed the top page. Project Halcyon was a joint operation started in 2012, designed to turn certain, clean-handed, criminals, often women, into intelligence assets in exchange for immunity. Their job? Infiltrate laundering networks. Befriend high-risk suspects. Sometimes, seduce them. And in Chloe's file? A mission start date. Angela Ray assigned, February 2013. Target, Anton Petrov, International. Secondary target, David Masters, Financial Link. Status, deep cover. Marissa's heart sank. "You were the target," she said, turning to David. "Not Emma." "Not at first." David swallowed hard. "She was using me, to get to Petrov?" Vickers nodded grimly. "But she went rogue," he added. "She stopped reporting to her handler 3 years ago. Since then, she's been off-grid. We think she and Petrov flipped the script, started using their own version of Halcyon. Kill, disappear, repeat. Why didn't anyone stop her?" Marissa snapped. "Because Halcyon never officially existed," Vickers said. "And anyone who talks, dies quietly." That night, Marissa drove to Emma's old storage unit. It had been unopened since her death. She used the spare key Emma once gave her, for emergencies, she'd said. Inside, boxes, old teaching files, books, holiday decorations. And one box taped shut with red duct tape. Labeled, "Marissa, don't open unless it's safe." She opened it anyway. Inside, a burner phone. She powered it up. Only one saved contact, unknown. She texted, "This is Marissa. Emma's sister. I found the phone." Minutes passed. Then a reply. "She said you'd come. Don't talk. Just listen." The phone rang. Marissa answered, heart pounding. A voice, male, calm, but urgent, spoke. She was going to expose all of it. Chloe, Petrov, the false immunity deals. But she waited too long. She thought she could outsmart Chloe. She couldn't. Neither can you. Marissa's voice cracked. "Who are you?" "I was her contact. She never knew my name. She just called me Gray Bird." "Why did she trust you?" Because I knew Chloe's first victim. Marissa nearly dropped the phone. She told me about her. Rebecca. She was my sister, the voice said. Silence. Then. Check the pendant. The one Emma wore every day. Click. Call ended. The pendant. Emma's silver locket, the one with the tiny sunburst on it. Marissa ran home and opened the jewelry box she'd kept since Emma's funeral. The locket clicked open. Inside, a SIM card. Tiny. Almost unnoticeable behind the picture of their parents. She inserted it into her phone. It loaded one video. Emma again. Tired. Pale. Shaky. If this card was found, it means I didn't make it. Greybird, if you're still alive, send this to the press. The full story. The files. Halcyon. The victims. She held up a list. 18 names. These are the women she silenced. Or tried to. One of them is still alive. Her name is Tara Lou. She's in hiding. Witness protection. Somewhere in Nevada. She saw Chloe kill someone with her own eyes. She testified. And then vanished. But if you find her, it ends. For good. Marissa and David sat in silence. Then Marissa stood. I'm going to Nevada. David frowned. Are you serious? We don't even know where she is. Marissa's jaw clenched. Emma left clues. In her emails. I remember one, she mentioned a sunrise diner, and a woman with a hummingbird tattoo. That has to be Tara. David sighed. And what if Chloe finds you first? Marissa looked out the window. She already knows we're getting close. And she was right. Because 3 states away, Chloe stepped into a motel bathroom. She rinsed the blood from her hands. The man she'd interrogated had told her what she needed. About the locket. The SIM card. The contact named Greybird. And the girl who escaped, Tara Lou. She looked into the mirror, her face calm now, expressionless. Then she smiled. Because she knew exactly where Marissa would go. And she'd be waiting. The desert was nothing like Marissa expected. Not the red, cracked plains she'd seen in movies. This was scrubby, desolate land, scattered with dry weeds, rusted fences, and heat that didn't just sting your skin but got inside you. Nevada was unforgiving. And somehow, that felt appropriate. She had been on the road for 11 hours, chasing a whisper. Emma's last encrypted file, hidden in the metadata of the locket SIM card, had pointed her here, a diner on the outskirts of White Hollow, population, less than 900. The coordinates led to an old email Emma had written to herself months before she died, never sent, titled only. If they find Tara first, it's over. David wanted to come with her. She told him no. He'd done enough damage. And part of her still didn't trust him. Not entirely. Now, as she pulled up to the Sunrise Diner, a squat 50s-style building with a flickering neon sign and a row of dust-covered pickups out front, Marissa wiped her sweaty palms against her jeans and stepped inside. The smell of burnt bacon and stale coffee hit her like a wall. A few locals turned to look. A new face didn't arrive in White Hollow every day. Behind the counter, a middle-aged waitress poured coffee with the dull rhythm of someone who'd stopped counting years. Marissa slid into a booth. She scanned the place. There, in the back, near the exit, a young woman sat alone. Early 30s, tan skin, dark hair pulled under a baseball cap. A long-sleeved flannel in desert heat. And when she leaned forward to sip her drink, Marissa caught a flash of ink on her collarbone. A hummingbird. It had to be her. Tara Lou. Marissa stood and walked slowly to the table. The woman noticed her, not startled, but alert. Like someone who expected danger at every turn. Marissa raised her hand slightly. I'm not here to hurt you. My name is Marissa. I'm Emma's sister. Tara's eyes narrowed. Her mouth opened, then closed again. She motioned to the booth across from her. Marissa sat. And the moment hung heavy between them. You shouldn't be here, Tara said at last. I had no choice. Emma told me you might come someday. She told me if you did, it meant she was dead. Marissa nodded, her throat tight. She didn't overdose. Chloe murdered her. Tara let out a sharp, bitter laugh. I know. They drove to Tara's trailer an hour later, off the grid, half sunken into the sand. Surrounded by wind, silence, and what looked like years of accumulated paranoia. Inside, the walls were lined with maps, files, pinned photos, a private war room. Marissa stared in shock. You've been tracking her. Tara gave a dry nod. For 7 years. She's not just a murderer, Marissa said. She was part of a project. Government-sponsored. Project Halcyon. Tara's eyes flashed. You know about Halcyon? I've seen the files. Emma buried them. Tara moved toward a metal cabinet, unlocked it, and pulled out a dusty binder. I was their collateral damage, she said. Chloe, under the alias Lucia Freeman, was my handler. They said I was part of a training program. Said they'd expunge my record if I helped them bait certain targets. I was 19. Stupid. I believed them. She flipped open the binder. Inside, documents stamped confidential, reports, names. There was another girl, Miri. She figured it out. Told me we were just decoys. I told Chloe. Chloe said she'd handle it. Tara swallowed hard. Miri was found a week later. In a river. No bruises. No struggle. Official report said suicide. But it wasn't, Marissa whispered. No. Chloe has a method. Soft kills. Medical mimics. She makes it look natural. Marissa clenched her fists. Emma said you saw her do it once. In person. Tara nodded slowly. It was 2017. A man named Julian Bates, small-time financier, big mouth. Chloe seduced him. I was just supposed to be the lookout. I watched her pour something into his scotch. 20 minutes later, he was seizing. She called 911, cried on the floor like she was his grieving fiancé. EMTs called it a freak reaction to alcohol. Tara's eyes hardened. I tried to go to the feds. I testified. They gave me a new name. Moved me here. Marissa whispered, and then what? Nothing. The case vanished. No one followed up. And 2 weeks later, I found a dead bird nailed to my door. Its wings ripped off. That was her message. Why didn't you run? I did. But she always finds you. That night, they stayed inside. Windows locked. Lights dimmed. Marissa sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by Emma's files, Chloe's photos, Tara's notes. What if we went to the press, she asked. Blew the whole thing wide open? They'd call it conspiracy theory garbage, Tara replied. Without Chloe in custody, no one would believe us. Then we get her on tape. Confessing. Tara laughed dryly. She's never going to just admit to anything. No, Marissa said. But she might threaten us. If she thinks we're close. You want to bait her? I want her to show her face. Tara stood up, walked to the back room, and returned with a tiny black box. A GPS tracker. And a button camera. I kept these from the program. Figured one day I might need them. Marissa's hands trembled as she took them. What if she kills us first? Then someone else will find the footage. That's the only way forward. The next day, they made the post. An anonymous article. Titled, Inside the Death Web, a Rogue Asset's Murder Trail. It was detailed. Measured. No names, no wild claims. Just enough breadcrumbs. Enough for Chloe to know they were getting close. They posted it to a conspiracy forum known to be monitored by Halcyon remnants, the same place Emma once browsed, judging by her search history. Then, they waited. Chloe read the post from a suite in Salt Lake City. She recognized the writing instantly. The rhythm. The phrases. It was Marissa. She was with her, the hummingbird girl. She smiled. They thought they were so clever. But she had never truly disappeared. She'd simply evolved. And she'd learned one thing across all her identities. Survivors make the best predators. That night, Marissa and Tara went into town for supplies. They left the camera running in the trailer, just in case. When they returned, everything looked normal. Until they stepped inside. The smell hit first. Burned plastic. Then, the silence. Too still. Marissa moved toward the living room. Stopped. On the table, a single Polaroid. Their photo. Taken from the trailer window. They stared at it. And beneath the photo, a note written in red ink. Even birds fall from the sky. Tara dropped to her knees. Marissa grabbed her shoulders. We're not stopping. Tara looked up, tearful, but resolved. She's coming. Marissa whispered, let her.